Mr. Thompson can do lease or purchase a property close to here. I've seen a lot of empty lots. And next to the court system, they have facilities, you have groceries, you have medical, they have police supervision, and it can be monitored by the board. So you have a nice experimental project that you can build right here in these empty lots. You can see it every day and see how it works. And if it works, then move it from here.
No, hey.
All right, no, please sit down,
Weber
sir.
Road next to Skip's house. We can
All
find
right,
there,
sir,
Skip.
please sit down.
Just look at the empty lots that you have here. Lease it, buy it, start it here. Experiment with it, and if you don't like it, close it, move it somewhere else. But at least see it for yourselves. And if it does work, you can all pound your chest and put your name on it. And I believe me, all of California will be looking at you.
All right, the next speaker is Earl Swedlund, followed by and then Kevin Bagley.
Hello, I'm Jim Swetland. I live in the North Village tract directly across from this proposal you guys had, and all my thoughts have already been said from all my neighbors. And anyway, it's not a good idea. It's been kind of sneaky as far as I'm concerned, real sneaky. And I'd like to thank Supervisor John Vasquez for sharing his opinion and being on our side.
All right, with that, we have Randy, begins with an S on Epic Street, and then Kevin Bagley, followed by Lindsay Brearley.
Yeah, it's Shahan. Thank you.
Is Shannon, oh, good morning, yeah.
I just was noticing a math problem while I'm sitting there. You guys are looking at just short of $1,975,000 for 10 people. That comes out to $97,500 per person. I mean, that's to houses. That's correct, right? With the cost of the purchasing the property and then renovating it.
Well, it's gonna happen. Go ahead.
Okay.
We're talking 1 year, but.
Well, 1 year. Well, then what's the reoccurring cost to maintain the facility? Is another concern of mine. I assume it'd be a county employee maintaining the place and staffing the place, so there's going to be an additional cost there. So I mean that's something that did concern me sitting here listening to this meeting. But I feel like everybody else here. I lived next to San Marcos Street growing up, and my wife and I lived in Camden Park, which is a very bad neighborhood. And I essentially worked 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, for about 2 years, saving money to buy my wife her dream home. And you guys are taking it from us. I mean, that's what you're doing to me. I didn't lose it. You guys are taking it from me. So that's all I got to say for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is Kevin Bagley, followed by Lindsay Brearley, and then Susan Fracchia.
Good morning, everyone. So, everything everyone said today, I agree with and I oppose. Mr. Vasquez, I appreciate what you had said. Mr. Thompson, you came to my parents' house years ago when you got elected, before you got elected, and said you would care for our community, take care of us in Leisure Town. I remember that day. Well, my mom had to remind me, but I remember it after she reminded me. Yeah. Use some compassion here when you say no. Because we have a family over here that's gonna be right next to it. Thankfully, I'm not right next to it, but my family is close by. And my sister just bought a house in that area. And she's completely upset, and so are her kids. She has 4 kids, 2 younger. And I definitely don't want them around when these people are there. I want the homeless to be helped, but that's the wrong location. Thank you.
All right, next speaker is Lindsay Brearley, followed by Susan Fracchia, and then Kathy Anderson.
Hello. So we live on Pinner's Court, which is one of the courts directly opposite from this proposed site. Literally a stone's throw away. My husband and I have 2 kids, and I am currently 39 weeks pregnant with our 3rd. Both me and my husband work in law enforcement for the state of California and have worked hard for what we have. I have many concerns about this agenda item, but we'll limit it for time's sake. First and foremost, none of you can guarantee the safety of my family. There are better options than moving part of the homeless population into a residential area. There are zero resources for these individuals off Leisure Town. They will literally have 3 options for when they have to leave the shelter for the day: walk to Kaiser ER, walk and loiter through the North Village community, or loiter at the neighborhood park. This is not safe for our community. Additionally, the bus system is extremely limited on this side of town, and to get to the closest bus stop, these individuals will walk through our neighborhood. We purchased our home directly across from the park so our kids could play. I do not want to worry about the homeless loitering in the park. It's a huge safety concern for me and my husband and any other parent who brings their children to that park. It seems grossly negligent to ignore the will of thousands of residents for a small percentage of our population. My family and I are all for helping people who want to be helped, but you can't guarantee who will be housed on this property. It's no secret that a large majority of homeless have a drug and or alcohol problem or suffer from mental health issues. I absolutely do not want my kids exposed to that. Rather than relocate several homeless next to a predominantly family development, find a place in or near an industrial park where children and families won't have to be concerned with their safety. And just as others have said, we were not notified. We found out through social media on Saturday night. Completely unacceptable. We deserve better than that as tax-paying citizens in Vacaville. My request is simple: reject the resolution today or postpone the vote so that the community has an opportunity to become more involved. The attendance today here does not reflect the amount of residents who are opposed to this. And I actually, I'm curious, how many people here are?
We're not doing the poll, so please conclude.
You won't allow
You're
us to
done.
say that? They just show you.
They are standing up and speaking just like you. And we have other speakers behind you. Susan Fracchia, Kathy Anderson, followed by Marsha. Ms. Fracchia, you requested 5 additional minutes. We're going to keep it to the 2 if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Susan Fracchia. I'm also a rural resident. I don't live directly in the area, but I live in the Lockwood. I've been attending many neighborhood watch meetings that directly affect our areas and close by. We already have issues in our community in the rural area with crime, over single-family dwellings that have numerous individuals moving into rented homes. We have dead cattle. We have overrun septics because they're not properly updated, and now we can't get enforcement codes in our neighborhood to enforce the codes to help with some of these problems, because we have one enforcement code officer throughout Solano County that is taking care of your trash dumps that get dumped all over the county, the dead animals, the overpopulating of these homes. And now you're attempting to build another property with multifamily people inside these homes that can't be supported by your septic systems, which is an environmental problem. You're also bringing more crime to our communities. We've already had problems with people in abandoned homes and also in abandoned motorhomes. Crime has been committed in this area. As a law enforcement officer, retired parole officer, I've dealt with these individuals, and when you're transient, you have mental health issues, you need direct supervision of these individuals. You need them to assist with their medications. They can't just be put in tent or temporary housing without some type of supervision. So I'm really concerned and would like to see in writing what your proposals are and what the project is actually going to, how you're going to supervise these people. I don't think the area in the rural area is a proper place to be putting these individuals. You continue as a city, keep sending it out to the rural area, all these problems with
Please conclude your comments. Your time has expired.
To address these issues.
Thank you. Next speaker, Kathy Anderson, followed by Marsha Maranilla, and then Isaac Rayevich.
Hello, I'm Kathy Anderson. I live in off of Ellsworth Road, which my property, I believe, butts up to the property that we're talking about. If not, it's one lot down. Like Supervisor Vasquez had stated that you'd rather be at home playing with your grandchildren. Well, that's where I find myself a lot on my property. And I don't feel comfortable with doing that and having this put in this property. Also, my husband and I own a business at the other end of Ellsworth Road, so those are my concerns too about loitering and the theft. Those type of things are a concern of us. I know from trying to purchase a property myself, we had to go and get an environmental impact report done. So I'm wondering, are you exempt from that? I mean, I don't see anything about any of this stuff. And by the way, I was notified of this yesterday from a flyer that I got in, and that was someone going door to door to giving out flyers. So I just feel like there should have been more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Marcia Marandia, followed by Isaac Rayovich, and then Cecilia Villegas.
Hi, I'm not sure if you guys are very familiar with the area itself, but like other people have said, there's like a park right across on the other side. If you ever drive on that area, in that neighborhood, this is pretty much families of young kids. Like you can drive anytime from 3 to 7. There's kids riding their bikes all day long. Why? Because this is such a nice community to live in. I recently moved to Dixon, and I'm currently renting my property, but I do have to say that one day I would like to come back. Why? This is the best place to live in. And pretty much by you guys placing this supposed shelter home, you guys are literally creating like a tent city place to take place in that rural area that you so much call. So if you would one day please consider drive around the area, see what you guys are thinking of, and I can guarantee you this is like the worst plan that you guys can think of. It's a really bad location. Thank you.
Thank
You can laugh, but hopefully you can drive one day and see the neighborhood yourself. Thank you.
I'll tell you why. All right, Isaac Rayovich, followed by Cecilia Villegas, and then George Wynn.
Hi, my name is Isaac Rayovich. I live on Mount Vernon Circle where the opening in the existing perimeter wall is. That is my street. It's where my family lives. That's where my 2 kids live. So all these transients, they gotta get somewhere, because they gotta get somewhere, right? They're gonna go right through my neighborhood, right down my street. Okay? That's my street, that's my neighborhood, where all 5 of you district representatives that have been elected by us to represent us constituents. That's my neighborhood and my kids that all these people are gonna be walking by to get to the hospital, to get across the freeway. They gotta walk across the freeway just to get something to eat. All right? That's the neighborhood. You chose a close-in picture to make it look good for your agenda, not ours. So 35 people came out here to talk about our neighborhood that you want to come into and you want to put in a homeless shelter for your benefit, for your re-election, or whatever it is, not our benefit in our neighborhood with our kids. 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, they play in the street. Would you let your kids play in the street? Would you let your grandparents play in the street with homeless people, with needles, in a park? That's why we bought our homes. We bought our homes because it's safe. That's why we bought our home 3 years ago. And now you're trying to take that away from us. You're trying to ruin our neighborhood that we purchased with our hard-earned money. We pay taxes every month for all those homes. And not all of us could show up today because you didn't give us notice. You didn't give us notice, and this is a public meeting that we should have been involved in. You should have notified all of us, not just the neighbor who found it out on social media.
Sir, please conclude your comments. Your time has expired.
And I think it's wrong of you to take his 5 minutes away and give it to somebody else.
It's okay,
He
sir.
requested it.
All right, the next
You
speaker is
denied it.
Cecilia Villegas, followed by George Wynn, and then Grover Wright.
I just want to say I do live a couple houses down from there. I came from a neighborhood that was severely exposed to homelessness, and I decided to buy my house because it was nice and quiet, peaceful, humble with our neighbors. We don't have any issues with each other. We hope to keep it that way. I heard from the Brown issue, it didn't go through, and we hope it doesn't go through for us either. We want to keep it peaceful, we want to keep it the way it's supposed to be, quiet.
Okay. Mr. Gwynn, followed by Grover Wright, and then Danny Wells.
Good morning again. This is a 5 thumbs down program. If you guys vote for this, you need to join Skip and say I'm not gonna run again, because you should be really happy to get that much money out of this one person. And you guys are gonna ruin it by making the property values go down. Next thing you know, it's gonna be a slum, and you say, well, we need more money, but we can't get it, we need to have a higher tax of blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. This is a no-brainer. You shouldn't even consider, there was a private person that spoke to earlier today that was gonna buy the property, and you guys have more money to spend because you're using taxpayer money, and you move ahead, and then the public moves back. I've asked you guys multiple times, if you care about the homeless so much, how about having the homeless come stay with you for a while? You just look at me and I can hear the crickets and nobody ever says a word. So we know where you stand on that. It's easy to put something off on somebody else, but when it's your house, it's been destroyed, it's a whole different thing. I think that the homeless can be helped, but this is not the way to do it. Supervisor Spearing talked about the nonprofits are already doing a lot. Well, why aren't you guys out there promoting more money? Mark Zuckerberg is not that far away. There's other people in Silicon Valley that Supervisor Spearing knows from being on MTC for 32 years. I would think that you guys get more money that way, you could come up with a place like, say, in Fairfield next to the homeless shelter they already have. It wouldn't get this much bad comments. So you guys really didn't think this one out very well, but you need to vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Gwynn. The next speaker is Grover Wright, followed by Danny Wells, and then Brian DeCesare.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Grover Wright. I live at 6971 Mills Lane, over there, 100 yards maybe from this proposed site. Several days ago, I sent each of you an email that described your current process as secretive, deceptive, scheming, deceitful, and conniving. Remember? That's me. And when I sent you that sarcastic thing, I hope that it would bring to light that you're doing this wrong. Your process failed on Brown Street and around the Carroll Center, did it not? And the reason it didn't work for you was because you did not have inclusion, you did not have meetings, you did not sell it. You didn't ask for community input. Your process is deeply flawed. And this process is continuing on to this purchase. Mr. Vasquez and all of you, when you ran for office, and I voted for you, and Mr. Thompson, I also voted for everything you ran for, you all promised us inclusion, openness, you promised us transparency, and you promised us community input. You just had an agenda item before this, a civic engagement cost that you were going to try and give to our young people. There is no civic engagement in any of this that we're seeing. That is a flawed process. But right now, you have a golden opportunity that will pass you by. You need to do this. Number one, say no to this purchase. And then, number two, immediately, create a commission. And this commission will be tasked to go into the communities and you find these places that have water, sewer, food, transportation, that they might even have parking nearby, where there are no schools, parks, or residential areas around, and have these people come back to you and do this. We need
Sir, your time is up. Thank you. So the next speaker is followed by Brian DeCesare and then Raleigh Galgan. And Mr. Wells, you've requested an additional 2 minutes. I am not going to grant that request like others before you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I have given each member a copy of a letter that 12 of us who are from the faith community in Vacaville have signed, representing about 10,000 members in the faith community, signing in support of housing and providing temporary and transitional housing for homeless. I have worked, and I surely feel the passion of all here, but I have had the pleasure of working for the last 4 years with the joint churches who have been feeding and working with the homeless. And I think what our big problem here is, and our big issue here, is one of perception and reality. The perception is in our minds, when we see a homeless person on the street and we see them shaggy and we see them pushing the shopping cart, and they are obviously having an addiction problem, mental health issues, that becomes the poster child for the homeless person in our minds. And we see that person and then we think, I want to protect my children and I've got to protect my family. But what you don't know is that on the other end of the spectrum, and we have about 70 homeless, we know who they all are in Vacaville, we have 1/3, the top third, we call them the high-end homeless, are invisible. You have no idea that they're there. This high end are the high end that are willing to work on transitional housing and try to get a foot up and get off to the next better part of life. One of them wears a suit and tie every day, and he holds down 2 jobs. But this is the second winter he is out in the cold with no covering over his head. If you could, just in your own hearts, realize that this 1/3 group who are looking to go into housing are those who are never going to touch your children. We have been serving for 10 years at Epiphany Church on the corner of West and Buck. The housing values of the properties all around have escalated by 130 to 140%. I've done the analysis of all of them in the last 7 years, and this is where the homeless are gathering every week. There's
Your time's up. I'm sorry, sir, yes, your time's up. But I appreciate please.
I appreciate
So
the
then-
willingness to hear.
Thank you. So the next speaker is Brian DeCesare, followed by Riley Galligan, and these are the last 2 cards I will not accept anymore. So Mr. DeCesare.
Hi, I live on Midway Road, and I live in the RV park, and I can leave whenever I want. These people can't. Well, I'm an activist in Sacramento for probably 2 days a month, and you got my attention. So let me just say, this is the first day of a long process. And you wanted to fight? You better believe you got one.
Is Riley Galligan here? Okay, that ends the speakers. All right, brings it back into the hands of the board, and with that, I think there's some questions for county council. What?
We're not required to fill out a card, and I didn't find the cards. I would like to speak, please.
Okay, you'll be the last speaker, no worries. Come on up. Anybody else want to speak? This is it. Okay, you can get in line. You can fill out a card after. They're in the back.
Hi, my name is Pete Fuller. I live at 807 Josiah Court, which is far less than 500 feet. Virtually everything you people have said today is either a stretch of the truth or an outright lie, and I don't appreciate it. Just look at your map. You were very careful to measure not even from the center of the property, but offset it to meet some sort of rules, I guess, instead of measuring from the property line. And you're trying to say your 500-foot rule apparently goes from the building on there instead of from the property line. That's crazy. Secondly, Delatory Trucking tried to buy this property, and they were told that it had already been bought with a cash offer and a 30-day close. You're not asking permission to buy this property, you bought it. That's a done deal. You already signed a contract, it's in escrow.
It is not.
So the next thing that we have is that this is not a good location because there's no services for these people. There's no transportation, there's no jobs, there's no housing where they can like move out of here and go to another house nearby. There's nothing for these people out there. There's no, when you were down on Monte Vista Street, there was a food bank right across the street. I mean, that was a great place. And I have a solution. And you've also said that you're gonna put another building out there or something. That's 2.43 acres or something like that. You're not allowed to put another building there. You have to have room for your septic. You have to have room for another septic in case your septic fails. Your well has to be so many feet from the house and so many feet from the street and so many feet from the septic. So I doubt you could even drill a new well if the well went bad. This is not a good location, and the things you're saying you're gonna do, you're not allowed to do. One thing you could do, you could buy the El Rancho Hotel, which it's a different name now, but it's at Monte Vista.
All right, sir, your time
Brown
is
Valley
up. Thank you
Parkway. It's
so
a
much.
whorehouse anyway.
And then we have another speaker. Wow. Please state your name.
And
What is your name, sir? I'm sorry.
Susanna Brennan.
Thank you.
And a lot of my neighbors already said what I wanted to say, but I didn't want to add my personal family dynamics. I live right behind the blue, that property you see behind, that's my property. That's where I live. I raised 4 children with my husband, and my kids play in the backyard all day long. We bought that property years ago. Because of that, we can close our front gates and my kids can play in the backyard all day long. My kids will see that every single day. My sister loves our ranch, but that's not their lifestyle, so they bought a house in those new neighborhoods so that their kids can come to my house every day and play in my backyard. My kids, for Christmas, will be getting bikes so that they can get to my sister's new house. You have to go around and up. They will go directly in front of that every single day, the kids, back and forth. They would see that every single day from our backyard. That's not acceptable. With little kids everywhere, parks, hundreds of homes. Please, would you reconsider this and vote no?
Thank you. And did you want to speak on this item also? Okay. You can speak now and then pick up your yellow card and turn it into the clerk before you leave.
Sure. My name is Josh Moodart. I live on Frisbee Circle. I speak with a little bit of experience. I've got over 20 years experience in the fire service down in the Bay Area where this is a huge problem. And I want to speak about perception and reality. The reality of a yes vote today means you're bringing crime, drugs, loitering, and litter into our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right. So that concludes the comments. All right, we're all done. Okay. With that, we'll put it back in the hands of the board. And then there have been some questions that have been brought forward. Supervisor Brown? Okay, that sounds good. So,
I know. Well, I'll be right.
all right, why don't we take a 10-minute recess and then we'll come back at 12, what is that, 12:15.